On January 23rd, 2020, I began to write a suicide note. I'm trying to crack this. Because God's grace is really sufficient, and I'm so grateful. Hello creatives, welcome back to my channel. It has been so long since I've seen you guys. It's officially been a week. Like, I have attachment issues, so we cannot be apart from this long, okay guys? Even though it was at the expense of me, it was within good reason. So I recently just came back from a trip to Nashville where I got to see my best friend graduate. It was such a momentous moment. So I'll put some pictures around here and also tag her Instagram so y'all can tell her congratulations. And also, we are almost at 75 subs, and almost just a little bit closer to 100. Like, that is very, very, very big. And so be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get on to today's video. So if you couldn't already tell by the title, this video is about how God saved me and delivered me from the hands of witchcraft. It was in the spring of 2021 where my relationship with God made a complete 360, and it is something that I wouldn't change ever again in my life. And I just feel so renewed and so blessed to be one of God's children. And so basically, I just want to tell my testimony to help others to understand the depth of how living the wrong lifestyle could lead you faster to hell than what you may think it will. And I just wanted to be able to tell my testimony so that I can freely tell everyone how God has renewed me. And that is just such an exciting journey to be on. And what I mean by being delivered from witchcraft, this wasn't just like spell book and a cauldron, even though it included some spell books. No, this is like tarot readings, new age spiritualism, chakras, spirit guides, doing full moon rituals, things like that. I definitely just want to be able to use this video to open people's eyes to that lifestyle and the detriments that it comes with. So when I grew up in a Christian home, and my mom was a preacher's daughter and really heavily and deeply in her faith, and somebody I'm very, very grateful for. Her salvation was very important to her. When growing up, my biological brother on my dad's side, he had raped me at a very young age before I moved to Chicago. So I originally lived in Wisconsin, and for so long I didn't tell anybody because that person, I was also a kid, and that person made me feel like if I did, then I would get seriously hurt or be in trouble, even though that's neither here nor there. As time went on and we moved to Chicago, after my mom got remarried, I was bullied a lot in school, whether it was the way I talked, the way I walked, my weight, etc. Someone always found a way to say something about me, and that was probably like the first couple of instances where I feel like, yeah, God is not real, because if he was, I wouldn't be going through this, you feel me? And that eventually led me to having depression at a very young age, and at the age of 12 I had my first suicide attempt. Fortunately enough, it didn't work. But then, as I said before, I was always asking God, like, why me? Why do I have to go through this? What is the point of this being a part of my life? You know, I feel like everybody has had that moment where it's just like, God, this is not making sense right now. And I just remember asking him for help, and I just felt like he couldn't hear me or just didn't want to hear me. And then that's when my relationship just kind of disappeared with him. And I developed this very strong, hateful resentment towards God. Because even though I was going through things, it was also watching my mom and my parents go through things as well. And my parents are very God-fearing, and they love God so much, and it just never made sense to me how, wow, God, these are your people. Like, why are they struggling? Why are you having them struggle, you know? But then, you know, as I grew older, that's just all part of the course of life, you know? But when that happened, I made room for the enemy to come into my life and corrupt my mind and my viewpoint on God. The thing about the devil that I realized is that he will present sin to you as the best thing that you'll ever have. I'm talking like wrapped up in a bow, and it makes you feel good. It makes you feel safe. It makes you feel something something that you haven't felt in a long time. But when you're constantly going through with that sin, it affects your life, it affects your family, your relationships with your friends or romantic relationships. But most importantly, you're in a constant spiritual warfare, and you lose that war each and every time that you commit that sin or you get into that sinful life. And as I got older, I got more depressed and more sad, even though I was listening to singing bowls and, you know, healing myself with crystals and doing all that reiki stuff, all that. And even that included like full moon rituals. Sometimes I would even have people pay me to do rituals for them, whether that be money, love, sex, being wanted, all that type of stuff. I now realize how the devil was using that to get closer to me in my mind, so that I would never be able to find peace and love within God ever again. Still, as I said before, I didn't realize it because he made everything look pretty and wholesome. Like the way that New Age spiritualism is presented now is just like very weird. Like looking back at it now, it's presented as love, light, healing yourself, shadow working, all that other type of stuff. It's really just a disguise, y'all. I promise you it is. And I'm gonna even include my old Instagram page that I used to have dedicated to like my rituals and stuff. Y'all, I'm gonna show y'all everything. And by the end of my junior year of high school, I had tried to commit suicide for the second time. I remember going to therapy and talking and praying with my mom, and it made me feel better for a time. My mom is someone, as I said, who's very deep in her faith, so her prayers really helped me, but I ignored the fact that it did help me because I still had that same resentment and I harbored that in my heart. So as long as I didn't know God and I wasn't actively pursuing him, I felt like he wasn't actively pursuing me, even when I was convicted of the things that I deep down knew were wrong. But I always told myself, and I feel like everybody has been through this,
I can get through it without God. Yeah, I'm gonna show him you don't need God in your life to be successful, have money, have the things that you want.
you could do all that by yourself. And I'll tell you, that's probably the worst mistake that you could ever make in your life, because one thing God gonna do is show you better than he could tell you. And then even having that thought process back then, I didn't know that the only way to get through what I was going through was to have a relationship with God. But as time went on, I went to college and met other people that were involved in the same things that I did. Well, very little, but not as much. And I really got deep into some demonic things. I remember on Halloween I had a full blown out like ritual, full moon ritual, because also on that Halloween specifically it was a full moon, and I'm not even gonna get into it, okay? But it was a ritual praising my spirit guides, asking them to come into me and come into my life and make me anew, and so that I could be just like them and be as just peaceful and just you know, because I really wanted them to be put on God's pedestal. I even got into a very tragic relationship where I had lost my virginity to a guy who definitely wasn't a man of God, and it was some things within the relationship that I'll touch on in another video. So I just created a soul tie with someone who was just as sinful as I was and just as like involved in those spiritual things as I was. When I had a horrible breakup with that person, I was so devastated. And also around the time I was not doing the best in college at all. Like this was my first year, and as you know, I'm a first generation college graduate now, and also a first generation to go into my master's now. But I digress. On January 23rd, 2020, I began to write a suicide note. And I was fully prepared to write that note and go, it's this thing, it's called a Jubilee Bridge. I was gonna jump off the Jubilee Bridge. I was so dead serious that day. I was dead serious. But luckily I didn't finish the suicide note, and what I did was that I just turned the lights off and I just cried in my bed. I just cried and cried and cried and cried. And I just allowed the demons that I was dealing with to consume me. I wasn't doing my schoolwork. I was smoking weed all the time, more so than I do now. And I was just like really sad. I was just so sad. I did not like the life that I was living, and I just couldn't understand, like, wow, I tried to commit suicide 3 times and it's not working. Like, what's going on? And even still, I thought I could heal myself without God. And when COVID happened, I was coming back to my Christian home, so I had to find a way to still do my practices that worked for me while also living in an atmosphere where God didn't allow that, and also just avoiding any condemnation or conviction from God and also from my parents. Much like how a demon is afraid of being casted back into hell. That's how I would really put it. So I did it in secret, but I noticed like everything that I did in that house did not work. Like, it was almost like a blockage, like a spiritual blockage. Like, my singing bowls were sounding out of tune, and it was really because God had such a covering over my house that each time I tried to do anything, it didn't work. I stopped doing it, and I just remember always having this like extreme anxiety about it. Like, I was just I don't even know how to describe it. Like, I was just really scared and just really always worried at the time. And I would get like these really bad anxiety attacks like at least 2 to 3 times a week. And I just got even sadder, especially with me being at home for COVID. Now, this is where the story gets good. So around March of 2021, this was where my ultimate conviction came. I was having one of the worst anxiety attacks I've ever had. And I was just in my room. I was crying, and I just got on my knees and I said, God help me. Like, literally crying, I said, God help me. I just can't do this anymore. I don't know what to do. Please help me. And I just remember after praying that, I just got into bed with tears in my eyes. And I'm trying not to get emotional now because I just went to sleep just like that. And I woke up. I'm trying not to cry because God's grace is really sufficient, and I'm so grateful. Yeah, I just remember I got back into bed and I went to sleep, and I woke up and physically my world was different. Like, I just remember like before, like I just had if I had to physically describe it, it literally felt like the brightness was turned down in my life. Like, it just seemed very dark, very gloomy. Like, much like how you would turn your brightness down on your phone, that's what life looked like for me until that happened. And then I woke up and I just remember the sun was just shining through my window so bright. And I was like, wow, this is what life with God is like. You know, like this, it was just kind of, even though growing up in a Christian home, as I said before, I didn't really like follow that. So it was very eye-opening and shocking to me, and just like, wow, this is a brand new world. And I just felt this overwhelming feeling of love and peace. And I just was like, wow, like I should have made this decision a long time ago. And then I went outside. The grass was greener. And for once in a long time, I felt happy. And my resentment blinded me from seeing that, and that he isn't a God of wrath and problems and this whole image of him that I made up in my mind. And that he is a God of love. And he shielded me from so many hands of the enemy, that my life could have gone completely worse had I been still following that same lifestyle that I had. And he let me know that the devil no longer had a hand in my life, and no longer had a said so, and no longer had a say so, and that he was in control. And at that very moment, after that day, I began to cleanse myself of everything that was not of God. Like, I deleted like spiritual apps that I had on my phone. I unfollowed like so many people on my Instagram and my Twitter, whatever the case may be. That's why I don't have that many followers and stuff now. I'm gonna put it right there so y'all can go follow me. Shameless plug. But yeah, all those people that were involved in the same things that I was done into, they had to go too, like with no questions asked. Because my relationship with God is very important, and was very important when I started that journey. and I got rid of everything that just didn't align with me and my relationship with God. Now I realize with going through all of that, it's not that he couldn't hear me, because he did, and I know he wasn't trying to make me go through things the hard way to suffer. In reality, I knew God said, I want you to go this way and do this so that you could really see how sufficient my grace is. I want you to see how everything works out because it is my plan and I designed for it to work out just for you. And I want you to, and I just felt him telling me, like, I want you to see how I'm going to set you up that you can get the best results that were designed for you, and giving me more than what I could ever ask for. And ever since then, my life has just been so fulfilling, and I experienced so much more happiness than I've ever had before. I have a relationship with God, and he is always speaking to me on how I can better my relationship with him every day, and how I can just use my story to heal others and heal other women that are just like me or have similar experiences that I have had. And he's really been deepening and sowing into my faith and sowing into my future and teaching me how to. I have this quote on my vision board that says, the day you plant your seed is not the day that you eat the fruit. And day by day he is teaching me that. And as I look back, I just think, like, wow, God is really the light of my life. And with all that being said, I leave you all with this. John 8:12 says, I am the light of this world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness but have the light of life. And with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching and hearing my testimony. And I love y'all, and I hope that you guys are able to find or have a fulfilling relationship with God, because he is the light of life and the truth and the way. Bye, y'all.